Welcome to a deep dive, into one of history's most intriguing and enigmatic texts,
Yeah.
the Emerald Tablet.
Ah, yes.
It's a compact,
Yeah.
cryptic Hermetic text, highly regarded by alchemists throughout history.
Mm.
Legend attributes it to Hermes Trismegistus, but the oldest known appearances are in Arabic texts
Mm.
from the 8th and 9th centuries.
Oh, wow.
So how did this mysterious text come to be,
Right,
and
yeah.
what makes it so captivating?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
It's so fascinating how the Emerald Tablet, despite being so short,
Right.
has managed to capture imaginations
Yeah.
of alchemists and esoteric thinkers
Mm-hmm.
for centuries.
For centuries.
Really is like a treasure map of wisdom.
Okay, so let's start with the text itself.
Okay.
We have a translation by Isaac Newton. Yes, that Isaac Newton.
Oh, Newton was quite the polymath.
Yeah.
A true testament to how interconnected different fields of knowledge can be.
Right. It just goes to show you, you never know where curiosity will lead.
Yeah.
Here's his translation.
Okay.
"'Tis true without lying, certain and most true.
Yeah.
That which is below is like that which is above.
Right.
And that which is above is like that which is below.
Yeah.
To do the miracle of one only thing. And as all things have been and arose from one by the mediation of one. So all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation.
Oh.
The sun is its father, the moon, its mother the wind, hath carried it in its belly. The earth is its nurse.
Wow.
The father of all perfection in the whole world is here.
Okay.
Its force or power is entire, if it be converted into earth.
Mm-hmm.
Separate thou the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly, with great industry.
Right.
It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to the earth, and receives the force of things superior and inferior.
Okay.
By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you.
Mm-hmm.
Its force is above all force,
Right.
for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing.
Yeah.
So was the world created from this art, and do come admirable adaptations, whereof the means is here in this. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus,
Right.
having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
That which I have said of the operation of the sun is accomplished and ended.
Wow.
So how do we even begin to unpack this?
Well, even on a first read-through, you can pick up on some key themes.
Yeah.
The phrase, as above, so below, points to one of the most fundamental ideas in Hermetic thought, the interconnectedness of the universe.
Okay.
What happens in the heavens influences the earth and vice versa.
It's a pretty powerful concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
To think that we're all connected to this larger cosmic web.
Absolutely. And the idea that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm can be a powerful tool for understanding the world around us even today.
Mhm.
The text also emphasizes one only thing, which medieval and early modern alchemists definitely connected to the Philosopher's Stone and its potential for transformation.
The Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
That's a pretty alluring concept.
Yeah.
This legendary substance with all sorts of powers.
Mhm.
Was the idea purely about creating gold, or was there something deeper there?
Well, the Philosopher's Stone, especially in the context of the Emerald Tablet, represents more than just the transmutation of metals.
Okay.
It also represents the process of purifying and refining the alchemist's own soul, achieving a kind of spiritual perfection.
So it's almost like a spiritual quest disguised as a chemical experiment, wouldn't you say?
I think that's a big part of why the Emerald Tablet continues to resonate with people centuries later, even those who aren't into alchemy.
Yeah.
But for a text supposedly written by an ancient Egyptian sage,
Right.
it's quite intriguing that the oldest versions we have are Arabic.
That is peculiar, isn't it? What's the story there?
It speaks to the complex history of the text and the figure of Hermes Trismegistus himself.
Okay.
You see, Hermes Trismegistus, this fusion of Hermes, the Greek messenger god, with Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, didn't emerge until around the 1st century BC in Greco-Roman Egypt. And the Hermetica, a collection of texts attributed to him covering everything from astrology and alchemy to magic and philosophy, were very popular, being translated and circulated widely, eventually making their way to Arabic scholars who were deeply invested in preserving and building upon ancient knowledge.
So the Emerald Tablet's journey to us is as intriguing as the text itself.
Right.
It was almost like it hitched a ride on this wave of intellectual exchange, wouldn't you say?
It did, and it pops up in some fascinating texts.
Okay.
One example is the Book of the Secret of Creation, most likely written by an Arab scholar, but which claims to be a translation of a text by Apollonius of Tyana, a Greek philosopher and mystic.
Wow.
In it, he supposedly discovers the tablet in a crypt beneath a statue of Hermes.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of an adventure movie.
Yeah.
But it also seems like there might be some embellishment there. What do you think?
Well, it's certainly a more dramatic origin story than simply finding it in a library. What's interesting is that the Book of the Secret of Creation introduces the idea that metals are formed from sulfur and mercury, a concept that became foundational in medieval alchemy.
Oh, wow.
This positions the Emerald Tablet as this ancient source of wisdom.
Right.
But even that has layers of ambiguity.
Okay.
Some scholars suggest that the alchemical significance in this Arabic text might have been overemphasized, potentially due to creative interpretation during translation from Arabic to Latin.
So we're already dealing with multiple layers of meaning and potential mistranslation.
Yeah.
It's like a game of historical telephone.
Right.
And from these Arabic origins, the Emerald Tablet takes this incredible journey, influencing everyone from medieval alchemists to Renaissance thinkers.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I want to make sure I've got this straight.
Sure.
We've established that the Emerald Tablet is this short, cryptic text attributed to Hermes Trismegistus.
Yes.
But the earliest versions we have are in Arabic, not Egyptian. We talked about the key alchemical ideas like as above, so below, and the unity of all creation stemming from one only thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've hinted at the connections to the Philosopher's Stone and the possibility of mistranslation.
Yes.
Is that a fair summary?
Yes, that's a great overview. It really highlights how much mystery still surrounds the tablet's origins and its journey through time.
All right, so from these Arabic origins,
Yeah.
where does the Emerald Tablet go next? It seems like it had a big impact on medieval alchemy in Europe.
Indeed it did. Imagine Europe in the 12th and 13th centuries. Alchemy is starting to take root,
Okay.
blending ancient Greek philosophy, Arabic science, and a touch of Christian mysticism.
Wow.
The Emerald Tablet translated from Arabic into Latin arrives on the scene, and it's like a philosophical explosion.
Because it's seen as this ancient source of alchemical wisdom.
Precisely.
Oh, wow.
One figure who really grappled with the tablet was Roger Bacon, a 13th century Franciscan friar, a pioneer of experimental science. He read the Emerald Tablet allegorically, seeing it as a symbolic representation of the entire alchemical process, which he called the Great Work.
That's interesting. So he wasn't taking it literally as a recipe for making gold. What did the great work represent for him?
For Bacon, the Great Work wasn't just about transmuting metals, it was about a spiritual transformation, a purification and perfection of the soul.
So a guide to inner transformation hidden within alchemical language.
He saw the Emerald Tablet as a map to achieving a higher state of being.
That makes you think about how we interpret ancient texts, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We often try to impose our modern perspectives on them.
Context is key, and this allegorical reading of the Emerald Tablet becomes quite influential.
Okay.
Another alchemist, Hortulanus, writing in the 14th century, takes this idea even further.
Okay.
He interprets the Great Work as an imitation of divine creation, a way of mirroring God's act of bringing order out of chaos.
So alchemy in its medieval form wasn't just about lab work. It was intertwined with religious and philosophical ideas, a way of understanding the divine through the manipulation of matter.
Exactly. Now, fast forward a few centuries to the Renaissance. It's a time of rediscovering classical knowledge, challenging old ideas, and a surge in interest in the occult and esoteric. And guess what? The Emerald Tablet doesn't fade away.
What?
In fact, it experiences a revival.
Why is that? What was it about the Renaissance that breathed new life into the Emerald Tablet?
Well, the Renaissance saw a resurgence in Hermeticism, the body of thought attributed to Hermes Trismegistus.
Good.
The Renaissance was all about revisiting the wisdom of the ancients, and Hermes was seen as this primordial sage, a source of profound knowledge.
Right.
And naturally, the Emerald Tablet attributed to him is swept up in this wave of enthusiasm.
And the legends surrounding its discovery get a bit more imaginative.
Oh, absolutely. Instead of just being found under a statue of Hermes, now it's connected to Alexander the Great, the biblical flood, you name it.
Right.
It's as though the tablet's origin story had to match its elevated status.
It's interesting how stories evolve over time, taking on new layers and embellishments.
Yeah.
But it seems like it wasn't just alchemists who were interested in the tablet during this period.
You're right. It starts appearing in art literature, even emblem books, which were collections of symbolic images and mottos popular in the Renaissance.
Right.
One iconic image is the Tabula Smaragdina Hermetis, which visually represents the tablet's core ideas.
What's that like? I'm picturing something very intricate and symbolic.
You're not wrong. It's filled with alchemical symbols, planetary correspondences, and even a secret acrostic that spells out vitriol, a key substance used in alchemical processes.
A secret code.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
right.
So the Emerald Tablet was getting a visual makeover, becoming more widely known, but was everyone convinced of its authenticity?
That's where things get interesting. As the tablet's popularity grew, so did the scrutiny.
Oh.
Some scholars began to question the Hermes connection, noting that there's no mention of the Emerald Tablet in any ancient sources, and the language feels much later than ancient Egypt.
So some were calling it a fake?
Essentially, Athanasius Kircher, a 17th century Jesuit scholar and polymath, argued that it was likely a forgery created by a medieval alchemist.
It's a bold claim. But even with this skepticism, the Emerald Tablet's popularity didn't wane, did it?
Not at all.
Oh.
It continued to circulate, was translated into various languages, and even caught the attention of Isaac Newton, who, as we mentioned earlier, translated and commented on it.
It's fascinating to consider that the man who gave us calculus and the laws of motion was also deeply interested in alchemy and texts like the Emerald Tablet.
Right.
His scientific mind must have been drawn to the puzzle of it all.
It speaks to the power of the Emerald Tablet to transcend disciplinary boundaries.
Yeah.
It seems to hold a certain allure for those seeking a deeper understanding of the universe, regardless of their field of study.
But even for Newton, the meaning wasn't straightforward.
Hmm.
Did he interpret it as a literal guide to alchemy?
He certainly looked for connections between the tablet's principles and his own scientific understanding of the universe. He saw it through a lens of natural philosophy, which was a bridge between the mystical and the scientific.
So there's a shift happening here from a purely alchemical interpretation to something more scientific.
You could say that.
Hmm.
And this tension between the mystical and the scientific continues to play out in the following centuries. Alchemy gradually falls out of favor as modern chemistry emerges.
Right.
But the Emerald Tablet, with its cryptic wisdom and enduring mystery, refuses to be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a philosophical chameleon adapting to each new era.
Speaking of adapting, our journey with the Emerald Tablet isn't over yet. It finds a new home in the 19th and 20th centuries, influencing esoteric and occult movements and even inspiring artists and writers.
Right.
But before we delve into that, I think it would be helpful to hear your thoughts on this transition from the medieval to the Renaissance period.
Mm-hmm.
What key shifts in the interpretation of the Emerald Tablet stand out to you?
That's a great question. I think one of the most significant shifts is the way the Emerald Tablet becomes detached from its purely alchemical context. In the medieval period, it was primarily seen as a guide to the great work, the alchemical process of transformation.
Right.
But in the Renaissance, it starts to take on broader philosophical and spiritual meanings.
That makes sense given the Renaissance's focus on humanism and the rediscovery of classical knowledge.
Exactly. And the rise of printing also plays a role with the printing press. The Emerald Tablet could be disseminated much more widely, reaching a larger audience and sparking new interpretations.
So it becomes less of a secret text known only to alchemists and more of a cultural artifact open to multiple readings.
Yes, and that opens the door for its adoption by various esoteric and occult movements in the centuries that follow.
Which is exactly where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. I'm eager to see where this journey takes us next.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about how the Emerald Tablet popped up in those Arabic texts and how it kind of got reinterpreted along the way.
Right.
But then it really takes off in the 19th and 20th centuries with all these new occult and esoteric movements.
Yeah.
It even pops up in surrealism.
It does. It's really fascinating how this one little text,
Yeah.
it's like this little seed that just keeps sprouting in different
Right.
forms throughout history.
And really takes root in those occult movements.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I think part of it is the timing.
Yeah.
You know, you've got this rise of modern science, and that's kind of pushing traditional alchemy to the side.
Okay.
But at the same time, there's this growing interest in spiritualism, mysticism,
Okay.
alternative forms of knowledge.
So people are still looking for something.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
still looking for that deeper, meaning that connection to something bigger than themselves.
So the Emerald Tablet kind of fills that void.
In a way, it does. And
Yeah.
then with its cryptic language and that aura of ancient wisdom, it just becomes irresistible.
So who are some of the big names that were drawn to it in this period?
Well, you've got Eliphas Levi in the 19th century,
Okay.
French occultist and ceremonial magician.
What did he make of the tablet?
He was really captivated by it. He saw it as a source of real magical power.
Really? So not just like a cool philosophical idea?
Right. No, he believed that if you understood the secrets of the tablet, you could actually influence the world around you.
Wow. That's pretty powerful stuff.
It is. And then you have Helena Blavatsky,
Oh,
the founder of Theosophy.
and she was into this too.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
She saw the tablet as confirming her own esoteric beliefs.
So it's almost like it's this blank slate that people can project their own ideas onto.
In a way, yes. But I think it also offers something genuine. This core idea of interconnectedness, this unity underlying everything.
Right above, so below.
Exactly. That resonates with people on a deep level.
But then there's surrealism. I still can't wrap my head around how the Emerald Tablet fits in there.
It's not as strange as it seems.
Yeah.
Think about it. Surrealists were all about exploring the subconscious, the dream world.
Okay.
They wanted to break down the barriers between reality and imagination.
And that ties back to the tablet.
Exactly. They saw the world as fluid and interconnected, much like the Hermetic worldview.
So it's that idea of as above, so below.
Okay. Precisely. It's about seeing the connections between seemingly disparate things.
Were there any surrealists who specifically mentioned the tablet?
Yeah, Andre Breton actually talks about it in his second manifesto of surrealism.
No way. What does he say?
He talks about finding a point in the spirit where contradictions dissolve, where the high and the low cease to be perceived as contradictory.
It's like those oppositions we see in the tablet.
Exactly, like separating the earth from the fire.
And then bringing them back together.
Right. It's about finding that unity that underlies all apparent duality.
It's amazing how this one text keeps popping up in such diverse contexts.
It is. It really speaks to its enduring power.
And it makes you wonder what it is about this text that makes it so timeless.
I think it's a combination of things. The mystery, the open-endedness, the invitation to find your own meaning.
But also that core message of interconnectedness.
Absolutely. In a world that often feels fragmented and chaotic, it offers a sense of hope, a vision of unity.
It's like a reminder that we're all part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that's a message that I think will always resonate with people.
So even though alchemy itself has kind of faded away,
Right.
the Emerald Tablet still holds a special place.
It does. It's a testament to the enduring power of ideas.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from ancient origins to modern interpretations.
We have.
What are some of the big takeaways you hope listeners will walk away with?
Well, I think the main thing is that the Emerald Tablet is not a static text. It's not something you just read and understand once and for all.
Okay.
It's a living document that keeps evolving with each new interpretation.
So it's more about the journey than the destination.
Exactly. And it's a journey that each of us can take in our own way.
What would you say to someone who wants to learn more about the Emerald Tablet?
I'd say go for it. There are tons of resources out there, books, articles, online forums.
Yeah.
Just dive in and see where it takes you.
So keep that curiosity alive.
Absolutely. Because the Emerald Tablet is a text that rewards curiosity.
Well said. It sounds like our deep dive into the Emerald Tablet isn't over yet. There's still so much more to explore.
There is always more to learn.
But for now, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey.
It's been my pleasure.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep that spark of wonder alive. All right, so we're stepping into like the 19th and 20th centuries now.
Okay.
What happens to the Emerald Tablet then?
It's interesting because even as alchemy is kind of fading away from mainstream science,
Yeah.
the Emerald Tablet finds a new home in these occult and esoteric movements.
So it's almost like alchemy goes underground a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It becomes more about personal transformation, exploring the unseen.
And why do you think these movements were so drawn to the tablet?
It's a few things. I think modern science is challenging those traditional alchemical practices.
Right.
But at the same time, you've got this growing interest in spiritualism, mysticism, those alternative forms of knowledge.
So people are looking for something else.
Yeah, they're looking for something beyond the material world.
And the Emerald Tablet kind of fits that bill.
Yeah, with that cryptic language, the aura of ancient wisdom. It just speaks to that desire for something deeper.
So who are some of the key figures who were really into the tablet during this time?
Well, one of the big ones was Eliphas Lévy.
Okay.
He was a French occultist and ceremonial magician in the 19th century.
And he was into the tablet.
Oh, yeah, he was totally captivated by it.
What was his take on it?
He saw it as a source of real magical power.
So not just like a symbolic or philosophical thing?
No, he believed that if you understood the secrets of the tablet, you could actually influence the world around you.
Wow. That's a pretty big claim.
It is. And then you have Helena Blavatsky.
Okay, the founder of Theosophy.
Right. And she was also really drawn to the tablet.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah. It seems like the tablet has this way of attracting people who are looking for something beyond the ordinary.
So it's not just alchemists anymore.
No, it's finding its way into all sorts of different circles.
And then there's surrealism. That one still kind of throws me for a loop.
I know, right? It seems like a strange connection.
It does. Surrealism is all about art and dreams and the subconscious.
Right. But think about the tablet's central principle as above, so below.
Okay.
Surrealists were all about breaking down the barriers between the conscious and the unconscious, the real and the imaginary.
So they saw the world as this interconnected web, just like the Hermetic worldview.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about seeing those hidden connections, the unity underlying all the apparent diversity.
And did any of these surrealists actually mention the tablet?
Yeah, Andre Breton actually talks about it in his second manifesto of surrealism.
Really? What's he say?
He talks about finding a point in the spirit where contradictions dissolve, where the high and the low cease to be perceived as contradictory.
That's pretty trippy.
It is, and it's a very hermetic idea. Some scholars think it was directly inspired by the Emerald Tablet.
So the tablet's influence is even broader than we thought.
It really is. It's like this ancient seed that keeps sprouting in the most unexpected places.
What do you think accounts for that enduring appeal? Why is this text still so relevant today?
I think it's partly the mystery, the ambiguity of its origins, the layers of meaning, the constant reinterpretations.
It's like a puzzle that keeps unfolding.
Exactly. And then there's the core message, the idea of interconnectedness, that unity underlying everything.
As above, so below.
Right. That idea resonates with people on such a deep level, especially in a world that often feels fragmented and chaotic.
It's like a reminder that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And I think that's a message that will always be relevant.
So even though alchemy as a science has kind of faded away,
Yeah,
the wisdom of the Emerald Tablet still lives on.
it does. And it continues to inspire and challenge us.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the Emerald Tablet.
Bye,
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, there's so much more to explore.
But for now, we'll have to leave it there. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing is to keep that curiosity alive. Don't be afraid to ask questions to challenge your own assumptions.
To keep digging.
Exactly. Because the Emerald Tablet is a text that rewards those who seek.
Well said. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep that spark of wonder